All right. Hey, Crown Council members. Stuart Anderson here. Welcome to our live stream for October 19th, 2023. I am coming to you from the Crown Council office in Salt Lake City. We've got four guests that are joining us today, four great guests as part of the Crown Council membership. And that is what the live stream is all about, is to connect you to different members of this group, to feel connected to the community, and hear from our members and what they're doing throughout the course of the country and through their work. So grateful to connect with some of these members, all of whom participated in our Guatemala humanitarian trip last week. So grateful for them and thankful for the time that they spent to serve and leave their practice. We're also going to hear from one of our resource partners, Elevated Networks. And this is our first time interacting with Elevated Networks on the live stream. So we'll hear from them what they do. They're an IT solutions company. They are bringing together all of your IT, all of the things in your practice that you need to connect when it comes to technology. Matt is an incredible ambassador for this business and what he does. Highly recommended that you connect with Matt and Elevated Networks. Next, we'll hear from one of my most favorite Crown Council doctors. Maybe I shouldn't have favorites. Chuck Skinner. He was part of the leadership group that was in Guatemala. We're thankful for him and this incredible story that they have. Chuck will share some of that story as well as some very interesting things that happened to them to get out of Guatemala. We had to rent helicopters in order to get the group out of the highlands, so he'll tell that story. Then we'll hear from one of my great friends and longtime Crown Council member and Smiles for Life Hall of Fame, Michael Gorman. We're grateful for Dr. Gorman. He was also a leader on this Guatemalan trip and just provided an unmatched leadership to all the people, especially when things got a little troublesome at the end and they were stressful about getting home. And then we'll finally hear from a team member. Ashley Cook joins me, and she shares some of the perspective of being on a Guatemala trip as a team member. So from there, I've got a couple announcements when it comes to Crown Council. One, annual event. We're inside 100 days, if you can believe that. I honestly can't believe it till we're in Austin. This is the annual gathering of all Crown Council members and teams. So we're going to be in Austin, and the meeting will sell out. So we do have space left. There is still space in the hotel, but now is the time to sign up for either the Young Dentist program or to participate as a team and join us together at the Crown Council annual event. So everything can be found on crowncouncil.com. Up on the top bar on crowncouncil.com, you'll see a tab for annual event. You'll find the speakers, the schedule, the cost, the registration. Everything is there for you, as well as the purpose of why we do the annual gathering of the Crown Council community. So that's it. That's my big announcement. We want everybody there. We plan the event to celebrate everyone and to celebrate this great community, and we hope to see you there. So that's it. All right, we'll start with Matt Heaton from Elevated Networks. We're grateful for him, and hopefully you learn a few things from him and his company and solutions that they can provide.
All right, welcome everybody to the Crown Council live stream. Stuart Anderson here, joined by Matt Heaton. Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Matt's joining us from Elevated Networks. Grateful for Matt as a resource partner as part of Crown Council. And this is really your introduction to the group. I know you were part of our annual event last year, but we didn't spend much time. I know we had a short introduction, but we didn't spend much time together. So it's great to have you here to introduce what you do and then some solutions that you can provide to Crown Council members. So I'll turn the time over to you, Matt, to give us a short idea of what Elevated Networks is all about, and then some ideas for our Crown Council members to help increase their own value and some solutions that you can provide. Is that good? Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, and thanks for the time, the opportunity. So Elevated Networks is a managed IT company. That's our core. And within that space, we manage the entire kind of IT infrastructure for businesses. We do a lot in the dental space, but we do a fair amount outside of the dental space as well. So we have a good understanding of different methods that the businesses are using and platforms that they're needing. We also do, I call it technology consulting, but essentially what that is we take our core of managed services or managed IT, and then anything else that's needed on the outside. An easy example of that would be internet, for example. If a business came to us and said, hey, we're not happy with our internet, we need something different. Well, we would then go to the table, and we have agreements with pretty much any provider that's out there in most technologies. And we would say, okay, well, here's the internet providers in your area. Here's the different solutions that they offer, and here's the price, and here's why we like this one and why we don't like this one, or whatever. And we kind of bring that solution to the table so that the customer has those options in front of them from an unbiased source, rather than going directly to a provider saying, hey, my internet's not good, and they're just going to get sold the next level up or whatever it is. That might not be the right solution for them. So that's our consulting side.
Nice.
So that's what I did. That's where my background comes from. And I merged with a managed IT company about 4 years ago, and that's where Elevated Networks was born.
Very cool. And as you've worked with dental professionals and dental offices, what have you found is the biggest solution or need that you are providing? Like when you come in and it's a normal, average, everyday dental practice, what kind of solutions and advice are you giving to docs?
So probably the two biggest things that we're seeing is, first of all, security, and secondly, consistency. So, from a security standpoint, there's a lot of things to consider when, especially in the medical world, you have, dental practices have to be HIPAA compliant, right? And so, right. Is your data secured, and is it backed up? Are your endpoints encrypted? Do you have anti-malware, antivirus? Can you detect incoming threats? Is your email secure? There's a whole bunch of things to consider when it just comes to that security piece. And if you can't answer yes to any of those questions, that's definitely something to be concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
The other piece to that is that's more on the data side, but the infrastructure side. So, is your network secure? Are your endpoints up to date? Or are you using computers that are 7-10 years old? And are the operating systems up to date and handling the software that you're currently using within your dental practice? Again, all those things are important. They all tie together within that kind of security realm. From a consistency standpoint, do you have a place to go if you do have an IT issue? And who do you call? And would your practice answer that question the same way? So the owner or the dentist might say, well, I always call so-and-so. And the practice manager might say, well, I call this person. And that's dangerous. If you're mixing people that you're calling with IT issues based on what the issue is, that can be a dangerous thing, because you don't want people intermingling within your network and within your data to be, completely frank. I mean, it's just not safe.
Yeah.
So those are probably the two biggest things that
okay.
we see.
So when you are hired by a new practice, let's say a new Crown Counsel office calls you, what kind of things are you doing? Maybe like a 4 or 5 step process of, you've arrived in their practice for the first time, or you've been given access to their network. What is it that you would do exactly?
So first thing we would do is consult with them to understand their business. Even though if we're dealing with 10 different dental practices, they all run their practice differently. And so we want to get understanding of how they run their practice, what the organization looks like, who is going to make what decisions, because as we've worked inside the dental space, we've seen a lot of, for example, we just had an incident where we ordered a new computer for a dental practice, and then we got a phone call a week later saying, hey, why did you guys order this computer? And we said, well, because so-and-so needed it, and they were at this location. We were told that that's the main person for that location. And they says, well, from now on, all orders have to go through this person. That just wasn't clear. So we need to make sure that we understand who makes what decisions within the organization. And then after we've kind of gone through that consulting process, then we really do a deep dive and understand what it is that they have. So we look at their infrastructure, we look at the softwares that they're using, we look at all the security processes and practices that they're going through and what they have in place. And then we get an understanding of who is handling their IT or what they're doing for IT. And that ties into that consistency piece, because knowing what their process looks like really helps us understand kind of where we need to go with it. And then from there, we implement a tech stack. So we have a whole stack of softwares and processes that we put in place for every practice. And that covers all of the things that we've talked about so far today. And that includes some equipment changes if needed,
Right.
From a firewall standpoint and switches and stuff like that. It may not be needed, but that's why we go in and look and check and see exactly what they currently have.
Yeah. Smart. I've been reading on your website the last, me and Matt talked yesterday, so I spent some time here reading about some of the services that you guys provide. And would it be a true statement, Matt, as I've read some of these, what our clients are saying, the dental practice turns to you for all things IT. Is that kind of how this works?
That's what we prefer. So I will say this: in the past, we have taken on clients. I'll call them break fix clients versus monthly or just consistent clients, right? So our business model is we go in, get an understanding, and then we charge on a per workstation basis. That's how we work.
Okay.
We have in the past taken on clients that we went in and they called us, we charged them hourly to handle whatever it is that they need. And we have since really realized, as we kind of refined things, that's just it doesn't work well that way. And so we won't take on a business or a practice that is looking for somebody to just come in and fix things every once in a while. Again, because it needs to be consistent. And we know that if that happens, they could be calling somebody else as well that might come in and fix something different at a different time. And then they might mess something up that we did, or we might mess something up that they did.
Right.
And we just don't want that to happen. And so, yeah, I hope that answered that question.
It did. Yeah. And one other question that I could, is kind of going out on a limb just for your advice. I mean, a lot of doctors, a lot of dental practices are looking or wondering what to do with things like personal cell phones on the network, or what emails to use, and how to protect those emails that are being sent out from the office. Is that stuff that you would also help with? Like, what advice would you give a practice when it comes to sending email from the office?
So my advice would be absolutely use a single domain. If you have employees that are using their personal Gmail accounts to email patients, if you get audited by HIPAA, that is bad news bears. And so having that email domain consistent within your organization that everybody is using, super important. As far as the ancillary devices like cell phones, we can protect and manage those if they are company provided, and if the company wants us to do that. We also can, internally on the network, if the organization doesn't want employees looking at certain things or doing certain things on their own personal devices, we can certainly block specific websites or traffic or whatever it is on the network too, so that those things can't happen.
Very cool. Nice. Hey, I've got your website open on let me share my screen so we can see it. I know I've seen a few places here where it's Let's Talk. Is that the best way for Crown Council members to connect with you, or what would you prefer, Matt?
So I would prefer, honestly, that they email me, and yes, they can use the Let's Talk button. That will go to our sales team, but for Crown Counsel purposes, honestly, I'd rather that they just reach out to me personally, and then I can make an introduction to my sales team personally, and I just rather do it that way through Crown Counsel. So my email address is matt@elevatednetworks.us.
Okay. So it's right here. Yeah. So this is info. So let's just change that, matt@elevatednetworks.us. And we'll include that with the video. There'll be a link when you watch. So super easy to connect with Matt.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. All righty, Matt. Good introduction. We'll have you back on. Maybe even do a webinar. It's only interesting because to me, this is not a solution for some practices. You are literally talking about every business on earth. They do not have cash registers anymore. Like, we're not running rotary phones. This is like, if you don't have a solution to solving the problem with technology, I don't know what you're doing. So this is I mean,
no, I just agree with you. And, you know, you'd be surprised at how many medical practices we walk into that they've got servers just sitting in an open room somewhere, and that's like their main server, and it's not backed up. It's just, that's their server. Everybody uses it. It's important. It's critical to the business, but it's just sitting there. So if somebody broke into their practice and decided they wanted that data, like, they literally could just walk out the door with the server, and data's gone.
That's
it. And so super crucial that that is locked up inside the office if you want it in the office, and that it is backed up somewhere else off-site.
Right. Cool, Matt. Hey, grateful for you. I know we talked about the annual event. Hopefully we'll see you there in Austin. We'll post this video to the Crown Counsel live stream and then onto your resource partner page. And then all your information will go out to the email network. So grateful for you, Matt. Thanks for building this solution for Crown Counsel members. And hopefully we got a lot of people calling and connecting with you over the next couple months. So appreciate you, man.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Matt and Elevated Networks. Grateful for him and thankful for all of our resource partners who provide solutions to the Crown Counsel community. So thank you, Matt. Next, we'll hear from Chuck Skinner. As I mentioned in the introduction, Chuck was a team leader on our Guatemala trip. He's coming to us from Colorado. Grateful for Chuck and the time he took out of his day to share his story and some of the experiences that he had on the humanitarian trip. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Crown Counsel live stream. This is a interview with Dr. Chuck Skinner. Dr. Skinner, welcome.
Good to be here.
So we have Dr. Skinner on. He just returned from the Guatemala trip last week. That was with our group. Joey Smith was there. We had a few of the team members on the live stream just last week. So we thought it'd be great to hear from Chuck. We'll hear from Michael Gorman too. We're going to interview him and hear how it went and what they thought. But Chuck, how was your experience? How's that for a leading question? How did it go?
Well, you just said Michael Gorman. I just want to give one, if I can, just one shout out to that man. What an amazing leader he was as well. I didn't know him personally, but to be with him on this trip with a couple of their docs, I just want to say, wow, he was. The thing I loved about it is that every single doc was like, when they got finished with the patient, give me another one. Let's go. Give me another one. Like for 10 hours, it was like the craziest adrenaline rush of service and love and doing good. I've never experienced anything quite up to that part. I think probably one of the greatest service, if you will, things I've ever been a part of in my life. From the setup, the takedown, there was never one person that was like, he did more than me. It was more like, I want to do the most. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And no complaining, and everybody was all in, and we were a Zion people, Stu, one heart, one mind.
I love, dude. It's crazy though. I mean, the service does that, and I wanted to ask you. I mean, you are getting to the part that I wanted to talk. So I have this screen capture from your practice. Here's the Facebook post. If you're looking at my screen,
And I don't know who posted this, but it was we were tagged. And then down here in the comments, Chuck writes, the best experience I have ever had as a dentist. Can you talk about that for a minute? Like,
Yeah, I
are you,
mean,
yeah, go ahead.
dentistry, I think most of us got into dentistry because we like it and this and that, and it's a good job, it provides for our family. But to be able to use the skill that we have to just go in and say, hey, you need this. They go back and we do it. There's no paperwork. It's 100% trust.
Hmm.
There's no dollar signs. There's no financial agreements. There's none of that. It's just like they are there. You get there at 8:30 in the morning and you see literally 100 chairs under a pavilion set up, and they're all just sitting there like this. Right, just from the minute you drive the bus up, after, by the way, a 45-minute bumpy road chicken bus ride every morning, right? We're going in the back of, I don't know where. we did some backcountry and on these buses, but anyway, it's when you pull up in the morning and you see that, it's humbling, right? And they don't, I don't know. I can't put it into words to you, but it's amazing. You have an immediate connection
Hmm.
with these people, and you have an immediate love. And when I had to do the triage for 3 days, and also as well as help out everything. But I have to admit, I lost it a couple of times when they would just like sit back in their chair and they said, "Okay, I'm in pain here, here, and here, and here," and we took an X-ray machine. Thinking that it would be helpful. Because we're like, hey, we're going to be next level here. We're going to, and I got this thing working and everything. And we didn't have to use it one time, which all you got to do is open up and you can see, okay, these 3 or 4 things are your top priority. There's no question about it. You don't need an X-ray machine to do it. So we put the X-ray machine away and we just went to work, and it didn't let it slow us down anyway. So
Nice.
Anyway, go ahead. I don't.
No, it's good. I didn't do. I think maybe we'll. Let me reverse just a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about how you decided to go and who you took? Have you ever been on something like this before, and maybe that decision factor behind going on the trip?
I've been a Crown Council member for like 14 years now, and I always have young children. I've had 3 kids grown up, and it's hard to finally get that time. And I know that's a bad excuse, but it has been mine. But me and my partner Brian Chudley, who went on this, have always talked about this is something that we want to get into, and so we decided last year that we want to do, because he comes to Crown Council with me too. We wanted to do a service project, and I've talked to a few guys about it, and the doctor I bought my practice from, his name's Bob Lorenz, and he's been to Samoa and other areas, and he has told me how wonderful it is. And so it's always been on the back of my mind, but I will tell you after this, it's going to be on the front of my mind. It's something that this is not my last one. It was my first, but it's definitely not my last. And I have a senior in high school. His name's Cole. I have a 8th grader in middle school, actually 7th grader in middle school. And I actually have a 16-year-old daughter that really wanted to go, but she couldn't because of dance. But my dream was to take my whole family to one of these. And fortunately, I got to take 2 of my boys and to show them a part of the world where they can have an appreciation for what we have in America and what we have here in Colorado and stuff, and our upbringing. And it was touching, because there was a few times where my sons would help me triage. I'd be like, hey, Cole, Ty, come here. And the patients would open up, and my boys had to step back for a minute. And a couple of times they lost it, which is, to me, I was like, that's what I'm bringing them here for. they had at the end of Tuesday night, my little 13-year-old came up and just gave me the biggest hug and just said, "Dad, we are so blessed." And that moment right there made it all worth it for me. And so why did I choose to do, why did I do that? For those experiences. And that's one of a dozen, 20, 30. I mean, Joey can tell you how many, might I say, spiritual, uplifting experiences that humble you and remind you who's in charge. I kept on saying to all we had 29 people with us. And with the experience, I think some people might have heard that we were trapped and Guatemala closed down. Are you going to get there, Stu? Let me just go.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll summarize this if I can here. We got there Saturday. We drove there, 8-hour bus ride Sunday. Monday, and we set up that night. Monday, we started working. We didn't know it, but Monday is when all the entire country shut down because of an election that was there. And Steve was our main guy from Choice Humanitarian. He kind of knew about it, but he didn't know how long this was going to last because they've done it before where they closed it down, the roads down for a day or two in protest because of an election and stuff like that. But day 3 comes around, Wednesday. Steve pulls me inside and says, "Chuck, I need to talk to you." He gave me the lowdown. He says, "Chuck, we're stuck here." I'm like, "What does that mean?" And we are 8-hour bus ride from Guatemala City. And me and Joey and Dr. Gorman and Chudley and stuff, we had a little powwow. What are we going to do? We announced it that night. And there was definitely some people who were freaking out. Okay, we're done. We're supposed to go back. We're supposed to do our little tourist things and stuff like that. But none of that happened. And the entire time we were doing this, I can say I really didn't have any fear, but there was a lot of people who did. And I kept on saying, everybody kneel down and say a prayer and ask for miracles, because we've already been on a week of miracles. We saw record numbers. We did amazing things as a team. We accomplished more on this. I mean, according to what people say, more on this than most expeditions. And we were being pushed and carried by that higher power. I believe that. And I kept on reminding our people, you know what? We're not in charge. We will get home. It's going to be, something's going to happen. You have to have faith in that. And Thursday morning, we all woke up to, are we going to make it? And the text across WhatsApp is, Steve's like, you know what? It doesn't look like there's much hope. To be really honest, everyone's going to have to reschedule their flights. We don't know how long we're going to be here. And that's where we kind of were.
Wow.
So it created a lot of panic for a lot of people.
Panic, yeah.
Right after I got that text, and this might be a little personal, but I want to share it anyway. Like if you saw my texting, right out the timelines of these things, you can't write this. Like, you can't make this up. My wife is sweet. She says, "Chuck, I had a dream last night. My dream is that you're going to make it home early. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to run with it." And I said, "Oh, I love your faith, and you kind of don't know what to say, but you're like, oh, I'm gonna have faith in that." So I did. And not only did I say we're gonna make it home, we're gonna make it home early. I'm like, there's no way that's gonna happen. I might make it home, but it might not be early. Friday comes around, no change. We end up having a powwow again, and my wife decides to go to the temple right as we have this powwow. And she says, my entire family is texting me at this time. Chuck, we're all praying for you guys. We know you're going to be safe. Everything's going to be taken care of. Have faith in that. That literally, I have texts from my brothers and sisters, and Kendall, part of Crown Council, and we're thinking of you. We love you. And we're praying for you. We have this little powwow. Steve's kind of in charge. I have a friend of her. This is like at 8 o'clock in the morning. I have these friends that are friends. We can get some helicopters. We can get some helicopters there in like a couple of hours. We can pick you up. We can get you there. And we sat there debating, is this the right thing to do?
Mm-hmm.
On one hand, if we get to Guatemala, but the airport's closed, we're stuck and we don't know where we're going to be. The hotel can't house us for that long. Where if we stay, we have food, we have shelter. This hotel can accommodate us. We're good. We're safe.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Joey looked at each other. I remember we looked at each other and we're like, this is the opportunity. Take it.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it. We looked at Steve, and I want to put it out there to Steve Anderson and Greg Anderson and you guys for helping with the helicopters, because what a blessing that was. I don't think you guys understand how much that meant to everybody. But I can't not do this interview and express my deep gratitude for the Anderson family, you guys, and Smiles for Life and everything part of it, because that was a miracle. And we went with that. I texted my wife, honey, we have helicopters. They'll be here in about 2 hours. She steps out of the temple to that message. And I believe in the inspiration of her putting her faith forward and doing these things to help us make that decision, because we didn't know. The intel coming in and out was not
right
clear. It's not like America where you can just look it up and it's all good. This is down there and you got some good info, you got rumors, no one knows exactly what happened, what was happening. So that's how we got extracted out by helicopters. That was amazing to fly over Guatemala in a helicopter. I was always afraid of helicopters. I'm not anymore because I'm a motion sick kind of a guy.
Yeah.
But I think we were so excited. Everyone was just ecstatic to get out and know that we were going to be safe. And when we got to the hotel, they were accommodating. There was about 100 guards at the airport.
Wow.
We saw them all, but trying to keep the airports open. And to finish the story about my wife's dream, I ended up rebooking a flight because we had to get out earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And we got home 6 hours earlier than we were supposed to. I wouldn't make it up. We literally got home 6 hours earlier than we were supposed to. And when I was rebooking my flight, I kind of forgot about my wife's dream. And then after I booked it, I'm like, wait a minute here.
I'm gonna be early.
Oh, we're going to be home early. I mean, there's so many more pieces of it, but and I kept on reminding people, we're not in charge. We were meant to be there, because if the riots would have happened one day earlier, our trip would have been canceled.
Yeah, that's true.
That started Monday, and we were able to get there. We did all of our work. The Lord provided a way home without question, and everyone got home safely and even early.
Nice.
And if you were to ask on Thursday and Friday if that was going to happen, if anyone knew that was going to happen,
no way.
No way.
Very cool. Chuck, what would you say? What would you, if everybody from the trip was tuning in and watching, any message for them, or message for next time we go back, advice for when you go back, anything you would say?
I will say, if someone asked me, would I do it again tomorrow? Because I didn't fear. And I would hope that everybody's faith increased a little bit in what they were a part of. And I would say, don't forget what we experienced, and ask for miracles in your life. Ask for miracles at work and at your home, and let let this little piece of experience, be a part of you forever. Don't forget it.
Hmm.
Because that's one of the biggest things I think we all tend to forget. And we don't remember where our blessings come from. And so for me, I would say remember and don't fear and do it again.
Nice. Well, Chuck, so grateful that you would lead the group with such courage, that you'd come on here and share. Grateful for that in this story. It'll be really fun to share with the rest of Crown Council, and just thankful for you, your example, and your leadership in the group. So appreciate you, man.
Oh man, I love it. I can't wait for Crown Council in January. It's going to be amazing.
Man, with this story, I'm going to maybe get you on stage to tell it. So get ready for that.
Oh, I don't know about that.
This was awesome. All right, Chuck,
Yeah.
I'll let you get back to your day, but appreciate you coming on and sharing just a bit. These humanitarian trips always are, all of them are different, but I think I can say, having listened and participated in so many, that I agree with you. I would say that continuing to go back and remember how special it is, where we live, what we've been given. And then Dale Beener said it many times when I've had him on. He said that one of the greatest things we have is to give because of what we've been given. He would say he went on a humanitarian trip every year for 13 years because he believed it was his duty, his responsibility to share that gift with others. So what a great story, Chuck. Grateful for you. Thanks for sharing it, man.
Yeah, and my last little quote here is, and Spencer W. Kimball said this, who he is. And I shared this with Greg and Steve, that God loves us and he does recognize us, but it's usually through another's service that he will answer your prayer, and he will come to help you in your most time of need. So we need to remember that. And it's also our responsibility to listen to our hearts too, that if we have the call to do something, that we do it, that we don't sit on it. And I hope that's another thing I would tell everybody: listen to your heart. And if you have inspiration to do something, go do it.
Nice. Dr.
Thanks,
Skinner.
Steve.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
I love you, Andersons. You guys are awesome.
Love you too,
Joey,
man.
Go give Joey a big hug for me. I love that man.
I will.
Okay.
All righty, man. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, thank you, Chuck. We're grateful for him and his passion and everything that he brings, not only to his team, but to this community, to that great group in Guatemala. We're thankful for Chuck and his leadership, and hopefully we can hear from him more, as well as be together at the annual event in Austin. Next, we'll hear from Michael Gorman, Dr. Michael Gorman. We're grateful for Michael and thankful for his perspective on his humanitarian trip in Guatemala and everything that his practice and Dr. Bruce Hutchison bring to the Crown Council and Smiles for Life. They have been leaders for the longest time in Smiles for Life, as well as the Crown Council community. So grateful for the time that Michael spends with us, and as he remembers and shares some of the things he learned on our Guatemalan humanitarian trip. All right, I just want to start and welcome Dr. Michael Gorman to our live stream. This is a recording, so grateful to have him on. Just returned from the same mission trip that Dr. Chuck Skinner was on. Chuck also did. Chuck was just on with me, and he did a little 20-minute recap of his experience. So it'll be fun to hear you guys back to back. The first thing he did was praise you. I mean, I couldn't get him to stop talking about how grateful he was to serve with you and be together with you. So I hope you guys had a great time together, memorable experience. But anyway, thanks for joining me, Dr. Gorman. Grateful to have you.
Thanks for having me, Stuart. And I would tag on to Dr. Skinner. He was definitely, as you probably have already talked to him and heard from the trip, was throwing a lot of curveballs for his first mission trip. He took them all with grace and in stride and did a wonderful job. So yeah, I was amazed at how cool he was with all the different things that came up, and there's always issues that come up, but we had some decent ones that were memorable for sure.
Very cool. Hey, before we jump into the mission trip, would you mind sharing just a little bit of your background and history personally in dentistry and then also with Crown Council. Is that okay? Can you start there?
Yeah, sure. I guess I graduated from dental school back in I guess it was '98. Went in the Air Force and did a residency there. After I got out of the residency, I joined up with Bruce Hutchison, and we've been, he's a member of the Crown Council, and we've been partners together for, I guess now the better part of 23 years now. Crown Council has been a big part of our life, and Smiles for Life has been a big part of what we do and enjoyed over the career that I've had. So been very grateful for all that.
Yeah. A few years ago, I got to join Dr. Gorman and Hutchison at one of their live events for their practice. And it was there I really saw the magnitude of how incredible of an organization that you've built, as well as a leader you are for your team. It was fun to connect there and kind of see you in your element. And, this practice is a huge part of our Smiles for Life Hall of Fame. You guys are always leaders when it comes to donations and Smiles for Life. And I'm thankful for you, thankful for all that you bring to the community and your friendship. So thanks, Dr. Gorman.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you very much.
So what inspired you to say, hey, everybody, let's go on this mission trip? Can you talk about that? What was your goals going into the trip and why you guys decided to sign up?
Well, yeah, I just did one last year in the DR, and we had a good time there, right? And so I actually had not planned on going back on a mission trip this year. I usually been trying to do it every couple of years. But for whatever reason, somebody that was going to go from our group couldn't go for some health reasons. And so I decided to go again. And the funny thing is I try to journal it when I'm going through it. I wrote the same thing in my journal the night before I left. I was like, why am I doing this again? And at the end of it, I would say, I'm so glad. And why wouldn't I do it again and again? But for sure, those things that you put yourself into, I don't know, difficult situations and uncomfortable situations voluntarily. It begs the question of sanity sometimes, but
I usually account that sanity if you let enough time pass in between the experiences, you just forget, and so you sign back up and you go again. Although
that's why I was saying I just did it last fall, and the fact that I was doing it again, I was like, oh my goodness, crazy.
Well, it's funny too, sometimes doing trips like this or participating in difficult service opportunities, that feeling comes at the beginning, but then when you're in it, you're reminded why you're there and why it's so good. So glad you went.
It washed away within the first. It's really one of those things. Before you're doing the work, you're like, what's this going to be like? But once you're doing the work, it's like, oh, I know what this is. You know what I mean? So it washes away really quick. It's just a matter of like, it's like if you're jumping in cold water, you're like, how cold is it? By the way, I have cold showers every day with a cold.
Perfect. Besides the cold showers, how was Guatemala different from Dominican for you? What was the biggest differences?
So one of the things was we set up in one location each day. We knew where we were going. We were going to the same village. We were treating the Mayan people in the area. And one of the reasons I think that we treated the one community is that one of our leaders from Choice, Steve, said that this community was well organized and looked like they could pull it off. And so one of the cool things that I'd never experienced on other mission trips is when we rode up the first day to set up, the whole community, it felt like, showed up and greeted us, song and dance. And I mean, I don't know that any of us had a dry eye by the time we were done. They stood up and played the national anthem. It was literally at least an hour plus production in the pouring rain. We were undercover, but not all the people that were there watching were, so the community came out and really greeted us, which I'd never experienced like that before, where there had been times where people had come out and greeted us, but it was something that was prepared and it was memorable. and it was very special, I think, for me especially. So
Yeah, very good. Any other powerful memories from the trip, or things that when you came home you journaled about or remember, people or situations?
there was this little girl. I told, we didn't have any cellular connection when we were out doing the work, but this little girl came back, and we would have to have a translator from, the little girl into Mayan to Spanish, and then Spanish to me. And so the little girl's like 7 years old, and she was wearing the typical Mayan outfits that the women wear. They have these, like, I don't know what they're called, but they're like almost like little shawls that are like finely knitted, and they're really pretty and intricate. And this little 7-year-old girl's wearing one of these outfits. And so this translation's going back and forth, and my translator Yoli says that the girl said that she's really scared. She doesn't want to have the teeth taken out, but they have been hurting her. And so this little girl walks back to this chair, which, I mean, if anybody has seen or been on a mission trip, they're not fancy dental chairs. They're like little plastic, picnic chairs, and they're laying their heads on these Costco fold-out tables. So it's intimidating, I got to expect, for the best of us, let alone some little 7-year-old girl that doesn't understand what we're talking about. And we looked foreign for sure with all the gear we had on. But one of the things that really hit me was that, my assistant said, "Would you want us to get your mom?" And she said, "Well, I don't have a mom." So I was like, it just really struck me, that this little girl walked all the way back and was going to get dental work done, and no one's there to, hold her hand or take care of her. And she's, I don't know, it's hard, tough.
Yeah, very tough. And special to come back home and remember the blessings that we have here, how greatly blessed we are, and the situations and everything that we're provided.
I kept telling my team, I was like, imagine some kid walks through our waiting room all the way through the back, goes and checks in, goes and sits down in one of our big chairs, and he or she is going to get a procedure done without their parents being all over them. Like, it just, like, I couldn't imagine, so I think, one of the things that, with Smiles for Life, they talk about doing good. And I'm sure we did some good. I mean, we treated more patients than I remember ever treating on a mission trip. And, but I'm sure it's just a drop in the bucket, and I'm sure it helps some people out. And I'm sure it was a big moment for us to come in and do stuff, but I really feel like the doing good part is, like, for me, I mean, are the individuals that get to experience it and realize that, like, how far we could fall, like how blessed we are with all the things that we have, or are we blessed? I don't know. Like, it's weird. Like, the kids there, when we brought Frisbees and soccer balls, they just had teeth extracted, and they're out there running around like madmen and women. I mean, they were having a blast. Like, every day was a blast. And I just, I see a lot of, like, kids that aren't as happy here, and they have so much. So it definitely makes you get a little introspective on what is important and what is not. So
yeah, I love that. Me and Kristen, my wife, always plan the trips that we go on. We usually go on the November trip, so then when our kids come home, we're rolling right into Christmas.
Yeah,
and make sure they remember you didn't have water a couple weeks ago. So
yeah, that's one thing I didn't plan it well, is that I just come back from a 10-day trip in Italy, and so Kings, we lived better than I normally do, and I lived pretty well. And so then to get right back on a plane and go to the opposite, looking backwards, I kind of wish I'd switched the two trips. It was definitely funny as far as that goes, but
it's a good transition, Dr. Gorman. When you return from these mission trips, how are you changed, or what would you say to a doctor who's like, why would I go? Why would I spend this time doing this?
I will say that every time I go, I meet people and work with people. I kind of, it's kind of like, if you ever, I mean, you're a big cyclist. And so there's the grind, there's the part that sucks. And when you're doing it with somebody, or you're doing the hard part with somebody, it shows what you've got. It shows that other people are there for you. And, you develop these friendships with people that it's a different friendship than just a meeting, or a work friendship. So I know that the people that went on this trip and the other trips that I've gone on, we will have something that we've shared for a lifetime. You know, I think it's good for me because it shows me that, gosh, I've got it so good. So I like to, I've always had a pretty blessed life, but I like to see that it could really be so simple to find happiness. So it's definitely a good way to reconnect with myself. That's why I journal a little bit more, a little bit better than I do on a normal basis. So
Nice. I love that. And if you were talking to a group that's headed out maybe next week, or someone that's going to participate in their first humanitarian trip, any advice that you'd give them right before they left, or something that you didn't know the first time you went? Look at that smile.
yeah, I guess just go into it with like an open heart and an open mind. That I don't know. There's going to be lots of things that come up that you're not going to be ready for. And so just trying to figure out a way to, get support from different people when you're having a tough time, and just, I don't know, journal it, like write it down, because the days come fast. And sometimes, you might roll into the next day and you've already started forgetting some of the things that were, memorable from the day before, like the fact that, like on our trip, we had several modes of transportation, and we took tuk-tuks, and we these little taxi cab things they used to drive around in the area. We took long bus rides, 8 to 10 hours over extreme windy roads, and some of the roads were washed out. We had to do the helicopter ride that I'm sure that Dr. Skinner told you about, which, that I'd never done that before. So again, you just, you go into it that you just keep an open mind, open heart, and just be ready to participate in a loving way. So
Nice. Very good. All righty. Well, any other concluding thoughts as we wrap up? I'm just thankful to hear how, I mean, the trip itself, as everyone heard from Chuck, it did have curveballs, and to have the open heart and the experience that you guys had, I'm just grateful for watching it from our side of the text messaging from Joey, that it turned out great and that everyone was happy and safe. Any final words or remarks before we wrap up?
no, it's just a real blessing that, Smiles for Life is there. Like, we really just started doing the mission. We've been a part of Smiles for Life for years. And it's only been in the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years that we started like using going on the mission trip itself. And we try to do good in our own community and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people that are hurting in our area, or in Virginia as a whole, that we could definitely try to help out. But I don't know, there's something different going somewhere, like away from everything. And like I said, a lot of times you can't connect as well as you normally do. And it really brings it down to the basics about what it means to be a human being, and taking care of somebody. And there's no insurance. You're not worried about like keeping somebody waiting or whatever. Like, there's so many things that like it gets down to the basics of like, you see a person, you touch a person, you hope to heal a person. And it's really just the real simplest nature of humanity, really. So
Nice.
It's a blessing that we get to do it. And thank you all for putting it on. So
Happy to. Grateful for you, Mike. Grateful you'd come share a little bit, and hopefully we get to go on a trip here sooner or later. That'd be awesome to go with you. So
yeah, hopefully I either make it out to Utah or see you at maybe a Crown Council event or something. I'm sure our paths are getting ready to cross again. So
okay, man. Grateful for you, Mike. Thanks for taking a minute to share.
Thanks, Stuart. Y'all have a blessed day.
Okay, you too.
Bye.
All right, thank you, Michael. Grateful for you, and thankful for our final guest, Ashley Cook, a team member. It's always nice to hear from a team member and their perspective on serving in one of our humanitarian trips. I didn't explain it in this live stream, although it has been talked about before, that all Crown Council members are invited to participate in our humanitarian trips. This is an opportunity for both team members, for doctors, for spouses, an incredible camping experience where you get to leave the practice, do good and serve together, as well as it provides your team an experience that really builds your culture, builds the environment in your practice, and gets you to the roots of serving others and learning that incredible opportunity of sacrifice on our humanitarian trips. So grateful for Ashley's perspective, thankful for her and the time she spent to be on the live stream.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Crown Council live stream. Stuart Anderson here with Ashley Cook. Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
So Ashley agreed to be part of this little interview. She just returned from Guatemala, our very fun trip. We just heard from Dr. Gorman. We heard from Dr. Skinner, and grateful to have some of our team members who participated in the helicopter ride. Just kidding. That's not what we're going to focus on the trip and your experience. Ashley, thanks for being with us. Do you want to just, Ashley, grateful to have you with us. Can you just give a brief introduction about where you're from, the practice that you're in,
Sure.
where you're working? Yeah, go ahead.
So I am in Stafford, Virginia. I am the assistant practice manager for Stafford Oral Surgery and Specialists. I do a lot of admin stuff, but I have been clinical oral surgery assistant before for many years before I moved over to practice management.
Very cool. And have you ever been on a humanitarian trip before, or is this your first one?
This was my first time.
Okay, let's start there. Why did you agree to go? What happened and your decision to go?
So a doctor in my practice went last year to the DR, Dr. Ashraf Eid, and he was telling us about it and talking about it. And when he got back, he said how rewarding it was and what a great experience he had. And if you ever get the chance to ever do it in your life, you should. So when it came about, when we were at launch earlier this past year, and they announced the trip earlier in the year, I was like, why not? Who knows if I'll get it, but why not at least try? I can at least say I tried. And I was lucky enough to be chosen to go with Dr. Gorman and his group.
Cool. And from a perspective of like, this was difficult. This is for other team members. This is some of the questions that I hear. I mean, was it, talk about challenges like day to day. Was it difficult? Was it fun? Was it nerve wracking for you? Or were you just like, go with the flow and this is awesome? I mean, what was it like for you?
All of the above. It was kind of all of the above. I think we all went through many emotions while we were there, to seeing the village and the people and how they live, compared to what we're used to, was just definitely a humbling experience. Challenges is, of course, we're not used to not being without electricity or without AC in our rooms,
right?
Or hot water,
warm shower,
a hot shower. But that part didn't bother me too much after a hot day. So it was just, getting used to how everything is there. And then, the standard of care that we are able to provide in the United States versus another area. Just how we do things is very different.
Yeah. Looking back on the experience, is there anything that stands out, feelings you had, or an experience or two that you had that you brought home and that you'll remember?
Definitely the kids inside they were just the best. The people were amazing. The people who took care of us at Choice Humanitarian, O'Hare and Hortensia and their team were just wonderful, and how they treated us. Everybody in the village was so nice and so welcoming to just make us feel like we were really wanted and grateful that we were there.
Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Skinner talked about the welcome that they gave that lasted like an hour of just like a party when you guys got there.
Coolest thing ever. Just
that
seeing and just like walk up and music and a line of people and the kids performed a dance. It was amazing.
Very cool. If you were Would you say the same thing to other team members? Would you encourage them to go? Would you say would you give the same advice to anyone wondering about going?
Absolutely. Even with the challenges with, kind of being stuck there, I even told everybody, I'm like, I would go next week if you allowed me to. So I would definitely go again. But being honest, you are going to have some challenges, and you are going to learn what your limits are and what you can push yourself further than what you actually realized. And that's one thing I learned about myself, that I can go work long hours in the heat and the sweat and be okay and be happy, because we know at the end of the day we did good.
What a cool thing to learn. Very cool.
Yeah.
Do you feel you're changed in any other way when you came back?
Just appreciate life a little bit more, and the things that we have, and the people we get to work with every single day, and how valuable they really are.
I love that. Very cool. Hey, thanks. You're awesome. Will you go back? You gonna try to go again?
Absolutely. I already
Nice.
told my husband he wants to go with.
Yeah. I know when my wife said the same thing. Does he speak Spanish? What will he contribute if he can clean the tools?
Will be like a runner, or hanging out with kids, or
Nice.
escorting people, but no Spanish whatsoever.
He can set up the generator. Nice.
Absolutely. He is very
Cool. Thank you, Ashley. Grateful that you take
welcome.
a few minutes out of your day. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Okay, have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you. Thanks to this great community. Thankful for the Crown Council membership, as well as all of the team members and resource partners, which make this group as special as it is. We will be back next Thursday with a whole new program, all new guests, and hopefully you can join us then. Thanks, everybody.